Hello there, this is part one of our vegetation course. So we're going to choose a model or plant we're going to start with here. And I think we can start with this here because it's the simplest model I think to create so that I can at least introduce the concepts that we're going to be using throughout this tutorial or throughout this course. And then maybe we can scale up on the complexity or difficulty of the models we are approaching. So let's begin with this. Remember, this is the same as this on this here and this here. It's just simply using the same concept and just using a different base mesh to shape out the tree or plant. So let's go in and work on this. So just open up a new blend file. Just save this as just call this again. You can request these project files. Let's call this vegetation. You can request these project files. They'll be available. All the links will be available to the project files if you want to get them. So the first thing we want to do is create a leaf, one single leaf to use for as an instance for the hair particle system, because we're going to be using the hair particle system to populate these instances of the leaves around the mesh. So we can start by creating a simple leaf. So I'm just going to add a plane. Let me turn on my keyframes, my shortcuts here, that you can see them here. Let me just scale them up a bit. So also maybe let me turn on random colors. Okay, so if you hit Ctrl 2, you can add the subdivision surface modifier, and the reason I'm adding that is because I want to have some resolution without doing a lot of work. So I'm going to reduce the viewport subdivisions to about 1, which I think is too little. Let me just have it as 2 and then apply the subdivisions, and then I can select this vertex and then turn on proportional editing. Make sure you set connected on, then hit G to move this on the top to the top like that, so that we have that kind of leaf shape. Now maybe you can bring this a bit in, just like that. Now if you want to be a little bit more detailed, you can just use Ctrl Shift B to bevel this edge into two vertices. Now we can create a stalk from here. I'm just going to extrude this to something like that. And we can also add a subdivision here, like so. Now I'm going to pull this up so that it's above my grid. Now what I can do is add some modifiers to bend this around so that it's more bending like a leaf. So the modifier I want to use is the simple deform modifier, so I'm adding that. Now you want to use this I think it's called, what is this, the bend type. You want to use bend instead of twist, so that it bends around an axis. Let's see, just have to play around with the bend axis to get the right bend, and just first apply rotation and scale so that we are working with the right scales. So let's try X, Y, Z. We start to see some effect when we change the axis to Z, but sometimes the best way to find out what axis works is by just going to edit mode and start rotating this around different axes. So if I rotate this on the x-axis by 90 degrees, you can see we get that bend, that leafy bend we are looking for. And now we can also just copy this again so that we also have this kind of bend that goes something like that. So just clear this out. Clear this. Okay, so now we just need to get the right axis again. So if we try X, yeah, I think this is what we want. But the center of bend is at this point, but what we want is to have it at the stalk here. So I'm just going to push this up and make sure that this end vertex is at the pivot point. And to guarantee that, what you can do is just select these bottom vertices. You can see the shortcuts I'm using, and then Shift S, cursor selected, so that you move your cursor at that edge you have selected, and then right click origin to 3D cursor to move your cursor exactly at that edge. Now you can see we have that bend, have both bends like that. Okay, now just to make our life simple, we can UV unwrap this right now, and apply materials and everything, so that we don't have to do that later. So let me subdivide this into split this into two areas. So I'm just going to use this as a shader editor, and maybe also here as a material editor, so our 3D view viewer. But I want to look at the materials in the look dev. So let me just extend this a bit like that. And what you want to do is download some leaf textures. I've already done that so that this tutorial can be a little bit faster. So let's create a new material, and I'll just navigate to where I have my textures. So image, I think I have them on my desktop. Let me just see. Yeah, so I have a leaf texture here. So you want something like this, something simple. And I'm not going to be using any alpha maps in this course because alpha maps tend to increase render times, and they don't really add a lot to your to the overlook of the materials. You can see all of these don't have any alpha maps. I try to avoid them because of how the limitations Eevee has, and even with its cycles, you will start to see some artifacts if you try using a lot of alpha maps. So that's why I'm trying to avoid them now. So what we're going to do is just go to the UV editor. Let me first preview this material here. You can see we have the material is, or the texture is not aligning correctly with our mesh. What I can do is first switch off all these modifiers, and then UV unwrap this directly from projection, so that I have, if we go to UV editing, I have this projection of the leaf. And, let me just preview the material here, and I can just align the texture to match this. This texture, I got it directly from Google, and it comes with the alpha channel. But again, as I said, I don't want to use any of this alpha channel. That's why I'm making sure that this leaf or this UV doesn't extend outside the non-alpha material, the non-alpha areas. So just, you can also just separate the stock from the UV here, from the UV area, by selecting, I think if you select, we can just add maybe a seam here, Control E, max seam. If I select just this, I can scale it down, and I just place it around where the stock is. Now we have our leaf. So if you want to use the alpha map, you can just extend it outside so that you get those edges there, if you want to capture that. But again, as I said, this will increase your render times sometimes. So that's why I'm trying to avoid it. And it doesn't really, you don't really see those details unless you're going to be zooming in onto the leaf. As you can see from all my shots, you don't see those details. So that's why I'm just not going to be adding them. So now after that, after we have the material, we can just go in and tweak it a bit so that it looks nice in our renders. Also, let me now turn back my modifiers. Just going to connect this to the base material, preview this. Let's go back to my layout. Then what I can do is connect this to the roughness. You can find PBR materials and then connect the materials directly, the different texture maps directly into their material nodes or inputs. But since I only have this, I'm just going to use it for everything. So for the bump map, I'm just going to connect this to the height input of the bump map node, and then connect this to the normal input, so that we get some of those bumps. I think they are too harsh, so I'm just going to reduce this a bit. And just to control on how just control the roughness of this, I'm just going to add a math node here, convert math node. I leave the operation to add, and now I can use this value to control how rough this material is. You can see. Yeah, so now that we have our leaf, we can start from there in the next tutorial and create different shapes for our plant. So we can use it for the Suzanne head, this tall tree, this I don't know, trimmed one, and also this here. So yeah, we'll be doing that in the next tutorial using the particle system. Thank you for watching.